Take a listen to this clip. Riley Gaines totally torching one Brittney Griner. It's really not fair. It's just not right.
Riley Gaines just dropped a nuclear bomb on Brittney Griner and the WNBA establishment as a whole. After Griner's contentious remarks about Caitlin Clark were ignored, Gaines spoke up and said what everyone was thinking. The former Olympic swimmer didn't hold back, and now the league is frantically trying to contain the damage. Do you believe Riley Gaines should have avoided getting involved in basketball drama, or was she correct to point out Brittney Griner and the WNBA's blatant double standards?
I've never seen an organization more committed to self-imploding than the WNBA. A few weeks ago, I made this video highlighting how it appears Brittney Griner said, "Bleep, white girl," after fouling out in a game against Indiana Fever, the team that Caitlin Clark plays for. Some people like Jamel Hill, former ESPN host, says that no, she didn't say bleep white girl. She says bleep whack call, to which she then went on to call me a grifter for even pointing this out, but besides the point. You can watch and make up your own mind as to what it appears Brittney Griner is.
People, holy smokes. Riley Gaines just gave everyone a reminder of why she has emerged as one of sport's most daring voices. Gaines stood up and issued a reality check that has the whole WNBA shivering in their boots while they were busy playing damage control and acting as though the viral Brittney Griner video didn't exist. Since the mainstream sports media has been spinning this narrative with backflips, let's start with what truly happened. Following Brittney Griner's fouling out during a game against the Indiana Fever, a video of her expressing what many perceive to be disparaging remarks against Caitlin Clark went viral. Griner can be heard using a racial slur and calling Clark trash on the tape. Now, some defenders have attempted to assert that Griner was genuinely discussing the referee's call, calling it a whack call and garbage. Here's the problem, though. It's rather obvious what most people are hearing when you watch the video and observe Griner's timing and body language. Furthermore, Riley Gaines was not going to overlook this.
Tonight, Indiana Fever and Atlanta Dream played. Indiana Fever is where Caitlin Clark plays. Atlanta Dream is where Brittney Griner plays. Now you tell me what it looks like Brittney Griner is saying here. For a little bit of context, this was in the fourth quarter after Brittney Griner fouled out against Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever would go on to win by 5. Now I'm going to tell you what I think she said. Let's play it back. Looks to me like she is saying trash and then calling Caitlin Clark a bleep white girl. Just a reminder, this is who Joe Biden traded for the Russian merchant of death. So many WNBA players hate Caitlin Clark so much when she is the best thing that could have happened to the league. And she's not the best thing that happened to the league because she's white. It's because she's a good player. It's because she's the best player. Now, imagine if Caitlin Clark said the inverse of this. It would be reprehensible, condemned, and understandably so. You've got all of these individual players. You have sports commentators, people like Ryan Clark, who constantly tout of the racial tensions that exist in the league, when in reality, they are the ones perpetuating and amplifying these racial tensions with their anti-white hatred.
With a tweet that went straight to the core of the issue, Gaines completely destroyed Griner on social media. After fouling out last night, Brittney Griner seemed to call Caitlin Clark garbage and a thawing white girl, she wrote. Recall that we exchanged this person for the Russian death trader. Now consider what would have happened if Clark had stated the opposite. And there you have it, a knockout punch delivered with surgical accuracy. Gaines did more than simply point out the obvious insult. She reminded everyone of the background that adds to the absurdity of the entire affair. In order to get Griner from Russia, the US government actually exchanged a hazardous arms dealer. And this is how she makes up for it? Gaines wasn't finished yet, though. She was only warming up, oh no. The WNBA rejected Outkick's request for media credentials, so they could question Griner directly about the remarks. Riley Gaines truly let them have it at that point.
Find out. Ask Brittney Griner. However, no one has done that except for Outkick. It's been over 2 weeks since Griner said this. Instead, the WNBA was investigating a bogus race hoax made up by Angel Reese about Indiana Fever fans. And I say bogus because they found no evidence that supports Angel Reese's claims. So we at Outkick applied for media credentials to cover Brittney Griner's team, the Atlanta Dream's, game on June 6th, to which, shocker, they denied us. We've never had trouble getting media credentials with any professional sports league in the past, but wouldn't you know, now they suddenly have very limited space, which is total baloney. They just want to suppress any sort of uncomfortable inquiries from media. Regardless, we at Outkick are going to keep asking the tough questions, the questions that that people want the answer to. And if you do call yourself a reporter or a journalist from an outlet like ESPN or any other sports outlet for that matter, and you have access to these settings and you're not asking those questions, you're really no reporter or journalist at all, at least not one.
With one stunning comment, Gaines completely ruined the WNBA's credibility in an interview with Fox News. The WNBA is the most self-destructive organization I've ever seen. She went on to explain why the league's actions are so harmful and hypocritical. Consider the points that Gaines is making here. The WNBA will look into unfounded allegations made by fans of Caitlin Clark. When there is video evidence of one of their players possibly making inflammatory remarks about their biggest star, they are suddenly too busy to look into it. Even worse, when journalists attempt to ask basic questions about the incident, the league blocks their access. This is not transparency, it's a cover-up, and Riley Gaines called them out for it in the most public way possible. What makes Gaines's intervention so powerful is that she comes from a position of moral authority that is impossible to dismiss. This person has personally dealt with unfair treatment in sports. She is the swimmer who had the guts to speak up when others remained mute about having to race against biological guys in women's championships.
A lot of people are talking about the Olympics, but not for the right reasons. So let me shed some light into a story that not too many people are talking about. I'm sure a majority of you know who Riley Gaines is and who is Brittney Griner. So Riley Gaines laid into Brittney Griner for kneeling during the national anthem. You don't have to sing or anything, but you need to show some respect for the country that saved you from a Russian gulag. True. If y'all forgot, Brittney Griner was a 32-year-old that was arrested in Moscow on February 17, accused of entering Russia with a vape cartridge containing cannabis oil, which is illegal in Russia. She was sentenced to 9 years in Russian labor. Obviously, this was a whole political thing. This was immediately after Russia invaded Ukraine. However, America fought for her and got her back in a one-on-one exchange with another prisoner. But that prisoner is one of the biggest arms dealers ever, Victor Bout. So you bring something illegal to a country, that country arrests you, and then America does everything to try and get you back here just for you to kneel during the national anthem?
Gaines is familiar with the experience of being attacked for speaking hard truths. The mainstream sports media has demonized her for advocating for fairness and defending women's sports. She thus detects the trend right away when she witnesses the WNBA shielding some players while disparaging others. It is impossible to exaggerate the genius of Gaines' remark regarding trading for the Russian merchant of death. She is reminding everyone that Victor Bout's involvement in the worldwide armaments trade earned him the nickname Merchant of Death. The United States exchanged Brittney for this man, who fueled hostilities all across the world. Reasonable individuals can differ on whether or not that trade was worthwhile, Griner. The concept that someone who benefited from that degree of support would later turn around and make disparaging remarks about another is undeniable, though, as it represented a tremendous commitment by the U.S. government to bring Griner home. The American athlete is rather beautiful, and Gaines' comment about what would happen if the roles were reversed is heartbreaking. What would have happened if Caitlin Clark had been caught on camera making similar remarks about Brittney Griner? The WNBA would likely suspend her indefinitely, sponsors would be leaving her left and right, and the media would be demanding her dismissal. However, since Griner is the one giving the remarks and Clark is the one receiving them, we can't really determine what she said about the game. Even casual onlookers are beginning to recognize how blatant the double standard is. The way Gaines has linked this incident to the larger issues facing the WNBA is quite clever. She isn't criticizing a single player for a little period of time. She's revealing a whole corporate culture that puts preserving particular narratives ahead of fundamental justice and responsibility. The WNBA's credibility is severely damaged by Outkick's denial of media credentials for attempting to pose valid questions regarding the incidents. This is purportedly a professional sports league that relies on fan interaction and media attention. However, the league excludes journalists who attempt to carry out their duties and pose simple inquiries. This was aptly illustrated when she pointed out that, aside from Outkick, no one has truly attempted to seek answers from Griner herself. The WNBA prevents access to the truth, while everyone else in the sports media is happy to conjecture and offer justifications. This is precisely the kind of action that alienates supporters and damages credibility. People are not naive, they are able to recognize when a company is favoritism and deception. And Riley Gaines simply made them look at themselves by holding up a mirror. Additionally, the time of Gaines' intervention is ideal. This occurred immediately following the WNBA's expenditure of time and money looking into wholly untrue allegations made against Caitlin. Fans of Clark, we have a league that will organize to look into fictitious disputes but won't deal with actual ones that are captured on camera. The way Gaines brought up ESPN's Jamila Hill's attempt to cover for Griner is even more embarrassing for the WNBA. According to Hill, Griner stated something completely different from what many people believe she said. However, as Gaines pointed out, you may observe and decide what Brittney Griner seems to be saying. That's the ideal reaction to these gaslighting techniques. Don't share anything you see and hear with others. Allow them to view the video and make their own decisions. Prominent media figures' attempts to misinterpret clear audio and video evidence demonstrate how anxious they are to preserve particular narratives. The fact that it would be so simple for the WNBA to handle this appropriately adds to the absurdity of the entire issue. All they need to do is hold everyone to the same standards. They should look into verified allegations against players if they are going to go into unverified allegations against supporters. All valid journalistic inquiries should be granted media access if they are going to allow it for certain stories. Riley Gaines simply cranked up the spotlight and ensured that no one could notice their blatant hypocrisy. Gaines' participation is all the more significant given the larger background of this debate. The WNBA's greatest development in decades has been Caitlin Clark. More favorable attention for women's basketball has been produced by her than by any athlete in history, and she has filled arenas across the nation and attracted millions of new fans. However, it appears that the league is more concerned with appeasing players who dislike her success than it is with safeguarding and honoring their biggest star. They are prepared to look into fictitious disputes that could harm Clark's reputation while ignoring actual disputes that could harm other players. Riley Gaines is specifically criticizing this outdated strategy. She is pointing out that because the WNBA actively works against its own interests, it is dedicated to self-imploding. They have a generational talent that has the potential to propel the game to new heights, but they are more focused in shielding the emotions of players who find her success intolerable. Additionally, Gaines recognizes something that the WNBA appears to have overlooked. Fans won't put up with blatant injustice for very long. If they believe their favorite player is receiving unfair treatment from the league, the new fans that Caitlin Clark has brought to women's basketball won't remain around. The swimmer has a distinct viewpoint on these matters because of her background. She has witnessed how political correctness or story protection may lead sports organizations to betray their own athletes. She has personally witnessed what it's like to be marginalized for advocating for fundamental justice. She understands the trend and isn't scared to call it out when she witnesses the WNBA acting in the same manner toward Caitlin Clark. This is precisely what occurred, and the league's reaction has further strengthened her argument. The WNBA's approach to handling awkward questions is demonstrated by the rejection of media credentials to outkick. Rather than confronting problems head-on, they merely attempt to keep people from inquiring about them. This tactic may be effective in the short run, but it will undoubtedly backfire in the long run. By drawing global attention to the WNBA's selective enforcement and media manipulation, Riley Gaines has expedited that deadline. As everyone is aware, the league turned away reporters who wanted to legitimately inquire about a contentious event involving one of their players. The way Gaines portrayed the WNBA may have been the most destructive aspect of her criticism. That's not simply an insult to an institution dedicated to self-imploding, it's a true reflection of what we're seeing. Caitlin Clark's popularity presents the league with a fantastic chance, but they are wasting it by stirring up needless controversy and displaying blatant partiality. The way Gaines has linked this particular occurrence to more general behavioral patterns is what makes her strategy so successful. She is not merely grumbling about a single video or someone who is not given a media accreditation. She is revealing a structural issue with the WNBA's operations. Gaines's need to become embroiled in basketball turmoil demonstrates how outrageous the WNBA's actions have gotten. This person has no special interest in basketball politics. She is a swimmer who has gained notoriety as a supporter of sports equity in general. However, she will not remain silent if she witnesses an organization using the same narrative protection and selective enforcement that she has opposed in her own sport. Thankfully, the WNBA was not going to be held accountable by the mainstream sports media. The league's response to the video proof of Griner's remarks is what truly reveals their priorities, even if the evidence actually speaks for itself. They could have handled the matter openly, conducted an impartial investigation, and moved on. Rather, they opted to circle the wagons and defend the nonsensical story. The entire sports world is now looking to see how they react after Riley Gaines brought that leadership failure to light. They have two options: either they take this criticism to heart and begin using uniform standards, or they intensify their hypocrisy and validate Gaines' claim that they are dedicated to self-destruction. Smart money is on them selecting the latter choice based on their past performance. But at least now, everyone will understand exactly what they're doing and why it's terrible, thanks to Riley Gaines. The WNBA sorely needed a reality check, and Riley Gaines just gave it. Everyone could see the corruption, but no one would confront it, until she boldly called out Brittney Griner and the league's double standards. How do you feel about this volatile situation? Tell me in the comments. For more truth bombs, hit the like and subscribe buttons.